Hi, my name is Tom, and today what I want to do is show you how to light a Triangia alcohol burning stove, as well as introduce you to a lightweight backpacking version of the alcohol burning stove, and take a little time talking about some of the advantages of this camp stove setup. What I have here is a Triangia stove setup. There is a number system. I don't have that with me right now. It's basically their model for 4 people. And what I want to teach you how to do is how to light this stove. But as I take it apart to get at the stove mechanism, I want to point out one of the benefits of this Triangia stove. It comes all wrapped together, not just a stove and a windshield, but all the cooking utensils you need for 4 people. So you've got a tea kettle, a fry pan / lid. You've got 1 pot, 2 pot, and then you have the windbreak and stove foundation that's snapped together. It's just sort of a click. And then there are these arms that you adjust for setting pans on or setting the kettles or the various pots on. All right, so that one advantage, full system, compact, packs well. Now I'm going to take this windshield off for just a moment because I want to show you how the actual stove mechanism, which is really small, just small and simple, it's this reservoir, all right? And it's going to eventually, it's going to sit right inside the mechanism like that. This is a stove, or this simply is a reservoir for the fuel. There's a couple parts here I want to show you. I've got the lid that's used to seal the reservoir. You can see there's a little alcohol in there. I can store alcohol in there from use to use. Making sure that that alcohol doesn't leak is a little rubber gasket that fits in there, you know, seals tightly. Whenever I use this stove, one of the first things I do is take this lid with the gasket and put it away. The reason I do that is because later when I have my stove burning and if I need to put it out and I need to cover it, if I accidentally grab this lid and put it on there, I will melt that gasket and create a mess. All right, so I'll want to take this off, put it away. All right, this lid is a very simple method for regulating the heat, and I'll talk more about that in just a minute. I've got some fuel in the reservoir. If I'm going to light this, I probably have enough fuel to boil a pot of water. Probably not enough for a whole meal that I'm going to cook. All right, so I want to add fuel. So let me talk about fuel for just a minute. I use denatured alcohol. I purchased that at a hardware store or a home supply store. Comes in 1 gallon bulk. All right, I transfer it into a fuel bottle that I use exclusively for my alcohol fuel. All right, simply to fill the stove, I pour the alcohol into the reservoir. Very simple. I hope that one of the themes that emerges from my use of this stove is just how simple it is. All right. When I have the reservoir, right now I have it about 3/4 filled, and it takes numerous uses to figure out how much fuel you need for different kinds of foods or for different size groups. I like to just fill it 3/4 of the way, and that'll last me usually more than 1 meal, but then I'm not constantly filling. I put it back in to the place in the windshield and it's ready to go. If it's going to be a moment or two before I get things going, I don't want the fuel evaporating, I take the cover the adjustable cover and just set it on there to prevent the fuel from evaporating. Make sure my fuel bottle is tight, not leaking. All right. And set it aside. I'm going to light the stove now. And in order to get a better view, I'm going to take this windshield off, set it aside, and light the stove. One of the advantages of using denatured alcohol is it's non-explosive. It's not under pressure. That's part of the simplicity of this stove. So simply I'm going to light a match or use my lighter to ignite the liquid alcohol. I always tell folks when lighting a stove, don't be sitting down, do be ready to back off in case it should flare. The beauty of this stove is because it's not explosive, I don't anticipate a problem. Light there. So I've just lit the stove, and you may not believe that, you may not see much of a flame. I'm just going to prove that I have a flame going here. All right, you can see that I am catching my twig on fire. There is indeed a flame, it's blowing. Hence why we want to use the wind guard to protect and channel that flame upward. Let's say I'm at the end of my cooking experience, or I'm sorry, not the end. I'm in the middle of it and I want to adjust the heat. The only way to adjust the heat on this stove is by placing this lid over the reservoir with adjusted for the amount of flame I want to let through. Very simple system, not the most efficient. This is one of those areas where there are many other stoves that allow you to regulate the temperature better. It is effective if I want to really cut the oxygen to the flame and just have a lower heat. Adjusting the amount of heat that the stove is giving off is an awkward process. It is one of the disadvantages of this stove. Now, if I shut this down so that I basically create a sealed lid, there's one small gap. That is how I turn the stove off. So again, pretty simple. I just want to set that over the reservoir. It cuts off the oxygen and extinguishes the flame. And the stove is off. Here again, that could be hot. I may need to be careful. All right, my flame is gone. I'm going to let it cool down just a bit, let the reservoir cool down before I screw this lid back on to save the alcohol that's in the reservoir. As I mentioned earlier, the typical Trangia system is good for 2 to 5 people. They do make a smaller model of this that you see right here that's appropriate for 1 or 2. What I want to show you though is what I call my backpacking version of the alcohol burner. That is a Trangia alcohol burner, and all the pots and you can use those pots with this system, but it eliminates some of the weight and some of the bulk. All right, most of what you see here is this windshield. All right, we'll set that up in a minute. Basically, the stove is this. This should look familiar. It's just our reservoir that we used earlier to light the stove. So that's the stove of the Trangia system. And the stand are these pieces that snap together just by making sure that you get one of these eyes at each junction. All right, and you place it, it's upright because these cuts you want on the upside versus that arrangement. And so what I'm just trying to do here is get some solid ground because I set that reservoir right in like so. So with this setup, if you add a windscreen that you can encircle the stove, then you get that added wind protection. But what I really wanted to show you was just how simple this system is, and for quick and light packing, what an appropriate setup this is. All the lighting, all the operation of the reservoir is of course exactly the same as what you saw with the other setup. What I've shared with you today is the Triangia alcohol burning stove system, two different models. This particular model that includes the full cook kit, the pots, the tea kettle, the grip, the fry pan, and the windshield and frame is available for rent at the RSOP rental shop. This is not, but I think it gives you ideas for some lightweight packing. What I'd really like to stress in closing is some of the advantages of this alcohol burner. Non-explosive, quiet, burns clean. I find those to be really advantageous when out on the trail. So thanks for watching and happy trails.